Alright. We know content is short in PSO2. And even community-generated content is of one stale type. It's either a guide or a news flash. So let's try making new types of community content like comics. But what about people who are unskilled in not only 3D stuff and 2D stuff? Okay, then why not make a comic in-game? Well, we can't really do that because we're missing a number of critical things. One, we can only have one character in at a time. And two, in order to actually do a proper scene merge with GIMP or Photoshop, we need a fixed camera. That doesn't exist in PSO2. We can't fix a camera in a location because all we have generally is a camera that follows or orbits a character and never goes very far and is always related in position to the character. We can't make a fixed camera in fixed space that's not related to the character. This is something that would be very useful in the comic editor, or should I say the photo studio that is planned to come out. If we can make fixed cameras, we can start making comics in PSO2. Because now we can actually do some tricks where we can log one character in, frame them within the fixed camera, and then log that character out, put another character in, or log in one of our other three characters in, go into position with the fixed camera, get in frame, take another screenshot, and then in Photoshop or GIMP, merge the two images and start creating the panels for the comic. That way we could actually start making comics. Now, something that is a step further, is we make a movie maker. It's just one step further ahead, where we have a source, something akin to the source filmmaker, where we can actually make movies in-game. Now, I was originally planning on making a one-man animated short in PSO2, but found it too difficult without the fixed camera and a number of other little shortcomings. I just couldn't really get to doing it. So what we need to do is if we're going to have something akin to a source filmmaker, we're going to need a setup kind of like Daz here, where we can actually position a character, animate it. In fact, actually, we could actually have it such that the content that they own through the scratches determines that the content they have for animating. So poses, outfits, hair, etc. But we also need to make sure that people can have a good cast if they're going to be making an animated short. So let's have the character slots that they have, a number of NPCs that are available. So Crawford, the Central Girls, Dozer, the casts from Ritem along with Nadia, and every new NPC that gets added along. Maybe even some of the Central City and Ritem NPCs. But what about custom NPCs? Let's have them equal to the number of character slots that they have, but have a restriction where once set, they cannot be undone, and if even set their gender and race to being, fixed such that it makes sense. And when they're locked, they can't just delete them, otherwise that's a cheap gimmick for gaming the NPCs. No. Make it fixed. So this way it's no problems, and if they want a new NPC, they then have to buy a character slot. They get 2 characters for the price of 1, in terms of making an animated short. Now, because they're fixed, you should have the cast look like casts, Dumans look like Dumans, so in other words, they gotta have a horn or the heterochroma eye, have the Numans have their elf ears, or short elf ears, have the humans have either short Numan ears, or maybe the heterochroma. Just make sure that they look as they are, and the type 1s are type 1s, the type 2s are type 2s, and this should solve a number of gaming issues with the film editor, because otherwise they're just going to keep on deleting and reloading presets. But here's what you could do to make it a bit fair, and somewhat worthwhile to spend a little AC on Premium, is in Premium, let's say every major update, you give a NPC reset pass that allows them to readjust the look of the NPCs and even maybe delete one NPC and create a whole new one. That would be fair. It's not impacting the game itself, it's just editing the content creation. Now, this also leads to more character slots, which means a little bit of AC, means more NPCs that they have. In other words, if they're more ambitious, they gotta spend some AC into making the cast. Now, one thing that I would do with this, though, is in terms of... Now, if they can make movies, they can make... Or in comics, they can make good stories. And if they're good at speculation and analysis, and they've actually narrowed down some things and they're almost on the money, Sega, see if you can get them on board with making a scenario or a side quest. This means that community content gets made in, and there's another reason for doing this. Because, one, they've already started making all the animated cutscenes. They got an idea of the scenario in their head. So they could literally write down the entire side quest story, along with all the events and possible in-game mechanics, for actually a whole side quest. Which is beneficial, and if they're good on, again, speculation and analysis, you might be able to have them integrate a side quest that integrates a little bit with the main story, but not completely. It would be a good piece of work. Now, again, this is something that is good, is, again, if we can make all these characters, make these animated shorts, it'll be whole new content. Now, for character control in the editor, I would be highlighting more towards allowing us to record and control the character with like our gamepads, like in this iClone 8 software, where we could actually use the gamepad or player controls to control part of the animation, or we have the console to actually invoke poses or animations or even turns. This would make things very easy and nice. And because the players are making the content, it means if you want to incorporate it, all it needs is a little bit of refinement. And if needed, maybe even voice acting. It means they've made content for you, they've done the bulk of the work, it just needs a little bit of spit, shine, and polish, and you can incorporate it right into the game. It means a whole ton of content gets made, and those people who are complaining, hey, there's no content, well, congratulations. Content's being made up the wazoo by the community. Some of it good, some of it bad, some of it, unfortunately, not all of it's going to get incorporated in, because lo and behold, if some of it's real bad, if I was, the company Sega, I would not incorporate it in. If it's the good stuff, because lo and behold, you get to see the whole range of custom content being made by people. You'd be able to go, hey, I like this, I like this, I like this. These ones I don't like. So, and you can cherry pick the good ones, and you just then got yourself a scenario writer for side quests. They could do most of the work. The only thing that I would say is give them credit for their name, and if they're really good, hire them. Get them a little bit under a contract. Just make sure that they're under an NDA so they can't spill any beans. But you got an opportunity of getting someone who could literally help in making the content. All what they need is just a little bit of time, effort, and you could have a whole ton of more content made very easily, and it would be very much fan driven. And if it's good, if it's good enough, people will go like, hey, yeah, can we get this story incorporated? Or if you end up really enjoying it yourself, get it incorporated. It means new content gets made very quickly in the game. Or should I say gets made very quickly for the game. Because not only is it outside the game that people can enjoy, these stories people will come up with, but if they can actually get made as an in-game story, oh, hey, you got new content for those that don't pay attention to that stuff. So you are winning out. So, Sega, if you really, again, this is a real moneymaker and helper for Sega to actually do. Just think about it. You could make money, you could make more content easily on your developers, and you got the community helping you make content. It's win-win-win, Sega. So, if I were you, I would start really considering making my own source filmmaker for PSO2 inside the game.